Wow. And people thought bipartisanship was dead. It's not. This is a classic example. Chairman and I have talked many times about this. We're on the same page. You know, we're trying to be reasonable. That's why the extension went to 2018. Unreasonable people would have said, well, 2015, which was impossible. But 2018 is real. And I will tell you, there is not a single person on this side of the table that's going to sit here and quietly just accept the next accident after that deadline. The blame for that will be laid on the people who deserve the blame, people who are not doing their job. Mr. Sumwalt, I want to publicly thank you and your agency for keeping the fire on this issue for so many years. I know it's not pleasant. I know you don't enjoy it. I know there are other things you'd like to get to, and I just want to express our appreciation. The NTSB has been, in my opinion, one of the best agencies we have. You do a great job on every aspect, and this kind of a thing, doing it professionally and consistently, is really, I think, really been helpful. I do want to specifically talk about interoperability. I get it, but I have an iPhone. My wife has a Samsung. We can still talk to each other. We can see each other if we want to. Interoperability may not be easy for a person like me who can barely turn this thing on, but there are plenty of 15-year-old kids in this country who can do whatever it's needed to get it interoperable. So, though I'm sure it's a bump in the road, as a small one. Mr. Reyes, I'd like to ask the FRA, when it comes to interoperability, I really appreciate the fact the FRA is sticking to the guns at the moment. I appreciate the money that you put out there to try to help people do this. I assume there will be more if necessary. But at the same time, I also see the FRA as having a particularly important role in requiring certain interoperability. You can't just say, do it, here's the money, and go ahead. Somebody has to be responsible to make sure that one system talks to another. And my hope is that the FRA, my expectation is the FRA is that agency, and I'm hoping that that's your role.
Well, absolutely. We oversee the railroads, and one of the requirements of full implementation is interoperability. The PTC system must be completely interoperable between all the railroads in order to have a safe system. We are reviewing the safety plans. That's a requirement. We're pushing all the railroads to not only just have the PTC system up for themselves, but to have complete interoperability.
I appreciate that. And I knew the answer, but I needed it to go on the record, and I appreciate that very much. I'd like to ask Mr. Hamburger, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Scotellis a simple question. Mr. Anderson, I think your initial testimony was pretty clear, but I want to draw a big, bold line under it. As we've heard, and again, more for the audience, everybody here knows this, but maybe there's some people at home that don't understand, PTC is a technology that requires hardware and software both on the track and in the rail cars, in the engines. So you can't have one without the other. And trains of all types operate on somebody else's track. You all do it, it's all done, and the average person may not know that. They may think you own the track, or maybe they think the government owns it all track. So therefore, that's what the interoperability is all about. But there's also, I was a lawyer, I'm a recovering lawyer. I'm practicing politics, I guess. I don't know which is worse, but that's somebody else can decide that. but as a recovering attorney, one of the things I used to worry about with my clients was liability. If my client had done nothing wrong, they had done the right thing, they would probably not liable for any actions that might happen. In the future, in the very near future, there will be situations where, for the sake of discussion, a stretch of track has perfectly good working PTC, yet somebody else using it does not have PTC on their engines, or vice versa, or whatever it might be. And all three of your groups and agencies have that situation. None of you run exclusively on your own track with exclusively your own trains. I'm hoping and wondering, have you spoken to either your attorneys or your insurers as to what will happen come January of next year if you have done what you're supposed to do on your track and somebody else wants to run a train that has not done anything? We'll just start with you, Mr. Hamburger, and then we'll go right down the line.
Not surprisingly, having been before the subcommittee before, the chairman and the ranking member have put their finger on what is, in fact, the biggest policy issue surrounding as opposed to the technical issue of interoperability. One of the things that I was pleased to see in Mr. Reyes's testimony on page 5, as a matter of fact, he talks about having all of the options on the table when it comes to how to implement the 2015 Act, which was designed.
I don't mean, I know you're trying to give me a complete answer. Unfortunately, time doesn't let it. Will you allow other people to use your tracks if you have done your job and they have not?
The answer is somewhat buried in the question of what the FRA is going to say in response to the chairman's question of what will the guidance be coming out of FRA if our members feel that they can continue. If PTC isn't there, we don't have PTC today, it's still a safe operation. We're a safe operation without PTC.
I get that.
So the question then is, from a legal liability standpoint, for the lawyers to take a look at it. But the policy question is, can you shut down commerce? Can you shut down
I don't mean to be
2 million
disrespectful,
people a
but it's
day
not a policy
operating?
question. If I were advising you as an attorney, I'd say you're nuts to stick your neck out on the line when you've done the right thing and somebody else hasn't. But that would be me talking to you as an attorney. And if you don't listen to your attorneys, maybe you better listen to your insurers.
I'm sure those discussions are ongoing, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I think
A very quick response from each, please.
Yes, sir. It is going to be very difficult for us to allow anybody to operate on the railroad we host without PTC.
Thank you.
FRA guidance has been mentioned, and quite frankly, the various entities have worked very well together in terms of exchanging information, and I would hope that there'd be continuing dialogue around these very critical issues so these final judgments can be made and the proper guidance can be issued.
Thank you. The gentleman's time's expired. Mr. Smucker's recognized for 5 minutes.